I'm just gonna start with one thing real quick. Um, Patuxent Phil saw his shadow today, and apparently there's 6 more weeks winter, but I don't believe it. My wife sent me a meme this morning that said apparently a lot of groundhogs that track the Groundhog Day, and he has the worst probability of being accurate. But he's the most famous, but he has the worst probability. And I
Fun.
went,
Hey, Brett, it's
"Oh,
Jeffrey. Fun fact. Do you know the Georgia groundhog? Does anybody know the Georgia groundhog's name that they track?
It's up in
no, what's that?"
Lawrenceville,
Beauregard,
right?
Beauregard Lee and
General
Stone.
Beauregard Lee.
Beauregard Lee.
I think that's the one if it's better than this news, we're going with Beauregard.
All right.
It's
No, it was
not.
the same.
Can
It was the
somebody
same
make a
news.
social media reel and tag me in this? It is Groundhog Day. It's also 1/12 of the way through the year.
Hmm.
And one of my questions before I put the numbers up is, did the weather affect our business? Like, did people buy or sell less because they got cooped up with weather? Um, I think we need to fact check that when we jump into these numbers here. All right, let's roll. So Fulton County, 519 active status change in the last 7 days. Pretty good numbers. We had two really big weeks at the start of the year, had a lull, and then we are climbing back. I think this number would have been higher had the weather held, but there's still 133 properties that went under contract in the last 7 days in Fulton County, which is the highest number we've seen year to date. So what I love about this is it's a great visual of the market heating up, like 49 to 96 to 118, 113 to 133. And then you go over to pending, and we're at 212 currently pending. There were 187 that closed out at the end of January in the last 7 days. You probably heard me talk about it, Jeffrey, the realtor effect. My suspicion is not all of the properties that actually closed have been changed in the MLS yet. So
Hmm.
this number would probably still go up. 232 expired listings at the end of January,
Is
compared to
that
almost
based on a cycle? Is that based, do you think, on agents they take their listings up until the 31st of the month?
every, not all, obviously some expire in the middle of the month, but most agents write their listings to expire at the end of the month for whatever reason, which it is actually a strategy not to expire or to write end of month listings because that's when all the agents make phone calls, right? But
Correct.
nonetheless, the market's certainly heating up. That's Fulton County. If we jump down to DeKalb,
Can I add
200,
something real quick? Just a
yes,
tip.
yeah.
Back when I was a heavy listing agent, I would always have mine terminate on the same day each month, the 15th. So if I did 6 months, I would do 6 months and whatever number of days got me to the 15th of the following month so that I never had to think about what day to pay attention to make sure a listing didn't secretly sneak up on me and expire. And it was just
Smart.
so the 8th or 9th of each month, I circled in my calendar, confirm expires, and make sure that I lean in to get the renewals. It was just a
That's
simple way
great.
to keep me not having to wonder what day and when.
I like it.
Yeah, I do that too.
258
Smart
active
man.
status changes in DeKalb County. Uh, Certainly more than we had last week. 73 went under contract. So DeKalb had a really fast start to the year, and then it tapered down instead of up, which is interesting. There's still 22 coming soon, but there's 151 pending. So maybe they just started fast and then we're playing catch up. But 151 pendings is strong for DeKalb County. 102 expired listings, and then 101 closed out at the end of the month. So I think DeKalb is strong, but not as strong as the other two counties. Let's see. So Cobb County's got 285 active status changes, 82 went under contract. So they look like DeKalb. They had a big week 2 weeks ago, and then they're back to doing about 80 to 85 a month. I mean, a week in going under contract. 155 are pending, and they had 122 close out at the end of the month. So the strong closing numbers, big expired number, 107. What do you see in the numbers?
I mean, it's fairly consistent across the metro. I mean, the numbers may be different, but at least what we're seeing in terms of active to closed is fairly consistent.
Yeah.
Is it? I don't want to use the the F word, but is it kind of flat, Brett? Does it feel maybe
No,
plateau,
it
or does it
feels like we're
feel
heating up. It feels
good?
like we're heating up. I was a little nervous to look at the numbers this morning, just thinking that the numbers for the last 7 days may have been off because of the weather. But it doesn't look like the weather has affected us as much because I think what happens when people get cooped up in their house is they end up spending more time on Zillow or Realtor.com or your website looking at real estate where they may not have spent as much time if they're out and about or working or whatever, right? So,
Well, it's possible that there's, to your point, Brad, that there's an inverse relationship between the weather and opportunity because where the ripple effect may happen is the last week or so may have slowed people on showings. But if they've seen their target house a week ago, 10 days ago, in some cases you find focused time at home trapped to now discuss offers, which can all be done electronically.
absolutely. All
It was
right.
also weather. The weather weekends are fantastic lead generation. I'm telling you, I'm hoping we're going to see that boost in March and April from all the lead gen that happened the past 2 weekends
That's right.
while people were cooped up.
Yeah, baby. All right, let's jump. So this first article, sorry, I was scrolling, from cold to sold. So what does a cold listing days on market look like right now? I was asking myself this question this morning, like, at what point does the seller start to get a little nervous? Is it 60 days? Is it 75 days? Is it 90 days? 120 days? If you've been in this industry for any length of time, you know that moment in time when the seller starts to get a little antsy that their house hadn't sold. And it changes. In the past couple of years, it was probably 2 weeks. They were panicked if their house didn't sell in 2 weeks. But a normal real estate market, it's probably 90 to 100 days, I would say. But I think some sellers get nervous early at around the 60-day mark. And the question is, how do you refresh a listing these days? And this article goes into 9 strategies around how to kind of refresh a listing. I'll hit a couple of them real quick and then we can talk. It says start with a full relaunch, not just a tweak. Like what does work is treating the property like a brand new listing, right? And do you rewrite the MLS description? Do you take fresh photography? Do you do different angles to reset buyer perception? The goal is simple. Give the market a reason to look at it again. The second strategy is
And by the
instead of
way,
just dropping prices. Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
I was just going to add one thing. Marketing companies do this every day, and I don't know that we as a realtor community do this often enough. A/B test different looks, different angles, whether it's the front of the house or the key feature in the house. Keep testing hits, and especially in your social streams, not necessarily the first page of your MLS, but in this case, that's what they're speaking to. Give it a new look. What you really want to do is get them to scroll deeper into your listing and not scroll past.
Mhm.
Yeah, so develop that thought a little bit, Rick. Like what would you do?
Well, it just as simple as, a different angle, a different lens, a different room, a different, like you'll occasionally see when people sell guitars, as an example, because I love guitars, they market every guitar kind of looks the same from afar. And occasionally someone will zero in or, take a tight picture of just the pickups and a knob or two. And inevitably I'm like, well, darn, what's the rest of the guitar look like? And so I'll keep scrolling and then they've trapped me, at least for a moment in time. And so the question is, if you're not getting enough attention, revisit what an eyeball, what the consumer look is
Yeah.
looking for, or something unique. How do you stand out amongst the commoditized world of images?
There you go. The second one's instead of just dropping price, how do you use buyer incentives to change the math? So obviously you could do rate buy downs, you could do closing costs, you could do those kinds of things, but there's also offering to pay a year HOA dues, covering landscaping or cleaning services. What can you do to create an incentive that reduces friction for buyers, particularly first-time home purchasers or investors, right? This one I want to spend a little time on. So they talk about the 5 second and the 5 minute test. So the 5 second rule is, and you've all had a buyer in your car. When you pull up to a listing, they look at it and go,
Mm,
"Yeah, we can skip this one. We don't need to go in this one." So the 5 second test is really that what is the first 5 seconds when somebody pulls up to the listing and what's that first appeal, right? And then the 5 minute test is subconsciously the buyer in their first 5 minutes in a property decides if the house is good or not. And you may have this most amazing uh, primary bedroom suite, but if they don't get to that in the first 5 minutes, they've already created an emotional feeling about the house. So that first 5 minutes in a property is everything. But at the same time, they're not even going to walk in the house if the first 5 seconds in front of the house creates a feeling, right? So what do you think about this?
my first thought really falls on seller's edge, Brett, because there's endless opportunities utilizing seller's edge to really focus on that 5 second and 5 minute tests. Easy,
Yeah.
simple things.
I agree, Jeffrey. It's like back in the day, it was all about, oh, put fresh mulch and plant some flowers. But today's day and age, I actually think it's probably paint the front porch. Let's restain the door that's been beat down by sun. Rick, you were and I were talking about the key lock. Why don't you say that?
Well, it's a simple thing. I don't know about, I mean, I think everybody on this call has shown houses where the key doesn't quite work right and you're having to jiggle it and lean on one foot and wink a certain way to get the damn thing to open. And I would virtually demand 10 out of 10 times that you replace the hardware on the front door. And especially with something that's, Baldwin brass or something that makes a statement because it's simple, it's not terribly expensive, it's easy, and it sends the message that this is the next level home, even if it's not first impressions, because subconsciously or people often make decisions to your point in the first 10 seconds, upon entry. And if they disqualify it, it's hard to win their hearts and minds back.
Yeah. There's a couple other things on here, like give the property a name and a personality. I chuckled when I read this one first, but then I started thinking about like, don't your buyers name houses?
Uh-huh.
They go like,
Yes.
oh, the one with the red door, or the cat house because it smelled like cat pee, or
Well,
they
don't
give
use that one,
houses,
Brett. I'm not sure
huh?
where you're going with your marketing. Don't use the cat house.
I'm not using the cat house. But they're saying is you should give it a name ahead of time and call it the
It's
corner
fun.
lot retreat or the cul-de-sac classic or the walk to school home. Uh,
Oasis. Use Chat GPT. Input key elements of the house and ask him what you asked chat what it would name it. I mean, it's a great exercise.
I mean,
And
Yeah,
it
I
ties
think.
back.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry.
Keith's got
Chip and
something for
Joanna
us.
Gaines, name every house on that show, My Fixer Upper.
It
Yeah.
goes back to knowing the avatar, like who is the buyer? Who is the ideal buyer? Each of these 9 things in this article tap on, okay, are you able to identify who the buyer is? And if you know who the ideal avatar is to buy that or purchase that home, well, make your name it that's going to be appealing to that ideal avatar. The storytelling, the curb appeal, all of those things, make it ideal to them.
Yeah.
It's got to speak to experience. That's the bottom line. What's it going to be like experiencing that
Yes.
that wonderful connection to your home?
Yep.
So that's good stuff.
Jeffrey, I was amiss to introduce you to the call. If
Oh, hi.
people don't know Jeffrey Melvin is now our co-team leader of West Cobb or Keller Williams Signature Partners out of Marietta. So I wanted to make sure everybody knew who you were. Um,
Amazing human being right there, folks.
yep.
Oh, yeah.
All right. One pagers that remove uncertainty. You can read this article in Circle. We'll post it immediately after the call. Knowing Luke, he's probably already posted it. Um, but expanding distribution, not just discounts. I think if you haven't already found listings that are maybe a little stale and you're trying to look to how to refresh it, or you need something to say to a seller that's a little anxious, this would be a good article to pull down and go, hey, these are my strategies, how we're going to refresh and reignite this listing.
Yep.
And I'll leave it there.
Can I add one last thing real
Yeah,
quick? When I
please.
would find myself in the position of helping someone relist a home, from a prior listing agent, the number one disqualifying detriment was their capacity to communicate effectively or how often. And so using these tactics gives you maybe a 9-week run of once a week having quality conversations around how you're enhancing, improving, and constantly striving for better. So they know you're working because their biggest fear is that you list it and then you hibernate waiting for a buyer to wake you up.
Great advice. Great advice. All right, moving on next. Homes.com isn't going anywhere, CoStar says in response to investor. So a couple things. This is an industry awareness thing. So I believe Homes.com, they originally, or most of the industry wants to believe Homes.com is similar to a Zillow or Realtor.com. But the DNA of Homes.com is fundamentally different than the DNA of a Realtor.com or a Zillow.com in the sense that they built this product to really be a listing marketing tool for real estate agents, and um, they uh, they fundamentally play the my listing, my lead philosophy, right? So they want to drive more leads to you from your own listings, and you pay for premium placement and all that stuff. However, the I'm connecting some dots here. So a couple weeks ago, we talked about Homes.com cutting back on their advertising spending. And I said, I don't know if we're going to see a Super Bowl commercial this year or not, or whatever. We may. Um, but then there's this article that there was a prominent hedge fund investor launched at a hostile takeover bid of CoStar's board over concerns about the real estate portal. CoStar doubled down on its Homes.com strategy. What I'm connecting dots, and I'm curious anybody else's opinion, Homes.com's not measuring up to expectations that I think they all thought it was going to be. And secondly, uh, I would not want to be a product in a Wall Street money backed environment in this day and age. I don't know. What do you think?
The simple reality is
It,
that investors want a return on investment, and some of these vehicles take a lot of time. And I think we all know the long tail. Are you guys familiar with the top two products in any category, whether they're alike or different, and to what degree with Zillow and home and and Realtor.com? But clearly they're a latecomer to the market and a latecomer branding wise. And I think they've decided spending multiples of millions and millions of dollars hasn't created the diversity play they hoped for. But and bottom line is CoStar is tremendously successful and financially viable on its own. And the way I read it is this is a diversity play, and they want to hold that money accountable.
Well, I
And
think
it's
they had such smashing success, Rick, with apartments.com, and they tried to run the same playbook on this, and it just didn't translate the same way as a return. So
but I think they
it,
were an early adopter of that in that genre. Like apartments.com was kind of the first real mass push in that
yeah,
arena,
I
different
forget
to a
Jeff
lake.
Goldblum was the face of it or whatever.
Yep.
Here's the thing. When I poll agents, in the beginning, when Homes.com came to the marketplace, agents did not have great success with the money spent. But I have heard from agents that are doing it today that are getting good leads off their listings on this. So I don't want to come on here and say it's not a good product. I just curious. I don't think it's found its place in our industry yet. Is that
Hey,
fair?
hey, Brett, it's Ken.
Yeah.
How you doing? So in regards to homes.com, so I've partnered with them and they include Matterport with all of their listings, which is a great, tool. And if you're not familiar with Matterport, it's super cool technology. And I'm getting, reasonable leads, from homes.com. And number two is I'm having more and more consumers use homes.com versus other tools. So I'm seeing a growing trend with consumers, which is good.
Yeah, I
Hey,
do think.
can I say something to that as well? This is Dana,
Please.
real quick. I put it in the chat. I am having fantastic success with homes.com. I was with them. I had been with them for like 5 years. And then I stopped using them because they used to be something else before and I was having great success and it's taken it time to turn around. But when I tell you on my listings, I am getting like at least 2 to 3 good buyer leads from homes.com and they're not saying that they're talking to other agents when they call me. So I think it's a great vehicle.
Great feedback.
Can
Great
I get
Encouraging.
feedback.
one more thing in on that one also? Because when I heard about, we were hearing that they are probably changing directions and we are getting leads from it. We're paying about $160 a month. They do the highlight of our listings. We do get leads, but when they change after Super Bowl, it's going to start at $4.99 and it's going to go in tiers. So everything we're getting right now at the $160 a month, everybody else is going to be paying tiers up to $1,000, $2,000 a month.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think they price you based on your listing inventory. So not everybody pays the same price. They price you based on your history of listings. Um, and Melinda, that's good feedback because it certainly sounds like the corporate boardroom is looking for a return on homes.com and they're going to push. Uh,
Yeah, and I would recommend at the family reunion, that's when I signed up for Mega Camp, and that's when they were running the special. And it's like that for the rest of the time I stay with them. So they're probably going to do a promotion there. And if you can get in at the $160 a month, jump on board.
there you go.
Good
Good
feedback.
feedback. All right, this article I love because it talks about I built my real estate business on a bar napkin, whatever. It says in an industry addicted to complex tech stack and guru hacks, the secret to scaling isn't more software, it's the return to the physics of business. And I actually had this message with our top 10% agents last week. And I said, look, I want to be clear. I am all in on social media. I am all in on AI. And I am consciously aware that the foundational success of real estate is still a foundational success of real estate. And don't let the innovation of our industry cause you to abandon foundational tactics because marketing and sales and operations are foundational to our success. You could replace those words with leads, listings, and leverage, right? And they, they go into a thing here where it says, is your phone silent? Well, your marketing is broken. Lots of showings, no contracts. Your sales features are broken. Closing deals but burning out and no referrals. Your operations are broken. And I just am going to die on this hill right now that there's some foundational things that I've watched our industry kind of move away from over the last couple of years because innovation, we go through periods of time of innovation, but don't let your innovation cause you to abandon your foundation. You
Mhm.
should innovate and maintain your foundation. And it's such a big deal. Rick, what do you think about this?
I think innovation the sole goal of innovation or utilizing, efficiency tools is to have more face-to-face, belly-to-belly, and toe-to-toe conversations. And that ultimately your database is your business and don't confuse a database with a directory. And so by making it hyper personal, the goal is to have how many more quality relationships can you generate utilizing the efficiencies of technology, but not relying on it for your lead gen. It's simply the first step. And I think some people might be distracted by shiny toy syndrome and using it simply to get hits and likes and looks. But if it doesn't lead to quality relationships bound by trust, you're not going to sell more homes and build more advocates.
Perfect.
Go listen to Allison Harris's MREA interview from today on the MREA podcast. It's fantastic tying back to this. Fantastic.
I just think our industry is refreshing right now, and our agents are refreshing, and uh, it's a moment in time when you need to go, what is my foundation? And then let's go be creative on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
A couple other quick talking points. I'll let you read these articles. President Trump says he wants to keep home prices high, lower borrowing costs. The way I read into an article like this is what's the message coming from the tower? Now, sometimes there's messages that come from the tower, whether it's the CEO of a company or I'm translating the message from the tower at homes.com, right? Like that they're looking for a return. And the US government, it doesn't look like they want home prices to go backwards, but they're very focused on affordability. Well, affordability is a very complex formula we've talked about, but I want to remind you affordability is really the relationship between a median income and a median price house. So that doesn't translate to luxury. That doesn't translate to all price points. It's really about can we get middle America into middle housing? And can we make that affordable? Because that's the bulk of the population, right? And is that going to translate to the ground game? There's an article here that talks about here's a blueprint for making housing more affordable. I'll let you read through this, but it's not just lowering mortgage rates, right? Like we all think lowering mortgage rates is going to make housing more affordable, but you got to realize there's an inverse effect. If they were to drop the rates today, demand comes flying at us, there goes prices, and prices start shooting up again. So it's more complex than that, but the messaging coming from the tower is still affordability is a big priority. The housing demand in 2026 is still remained very positive in spite of this epic snowstorm that just blanketed the country, right? And you saw that in our numbers. Our year has started off very strong and fast, and it's continuing to be strong. So we don't know that the snowstorm really did too much because I think all those people sat on Zillow or Homes.com over the weekend and looked at that real estate. But I really want to hit this before we run out of time. So there's an article, Pulte is saying that they're expecting less home sales in 2026. This is new construction, guys. I think existing home sales are going to go way up, and I think the builders are going to they're nervous, so they're probably not going to put as much inventory on the ground in 2026, but there's still going to be quite a bit. It's just they're expecting new construction to be kind of have a nervous energy. But this is the article that I want to hit. So Atlanta leads the nation in canceled home sales. If they feel your house is overpriced, they're not going to buy. Um, Here's the question around Atlanta. And it says Atlanta led the US in percentage of pending home sales that were canceled during the month of December. Cancellations are on the rise as buyers gain more leverage in the housing market and sellers failed to adjust. A buyer's market, said one Metro Atlanta real estate agent. I don't agree with that. And the sellers are just going to have to catch up to where the times are. Um, here's the reality of what I think is happening, and a big talking point I believe is insurance. So when I sold real estate, insurance was something the buyer did at the end of the transaction because the lender would hound them to get your insurance in place. And it was literally just a checks box that was done prior to closing. Insurance rates have gone up, and I think the prudent thing a real estate agent needs to do is engage the insurance part of the process earlier in the transaction. Because when I sold real estate, we would we would hand our buyer over to a lender. The lender would get them pre-approved. And 9 times out of 10, the lender was referring them to an insurance agent just to get the box checked to get the deal to close. But the lender puts insurance cost in the pre-approval amounts. And if that buyer gets shocked by how much insurance costs, it's going to blow the deal up, right? So I actually think the real estate professional of today needs to probably in helping the buyer engage an insurance cost assessment early in the process. What do you think?
That and taxes are another area
Yeah.
that increased taxes don't necessarily reflect until the following year. So I think an accurate depiction is really comforting and recognizing. And great lenders always know, instead of pushing the boundary of capacity to borrow, maybe creating a little bit of margin for unknowns is a smart strategy. So there's not sticker shock.
Yeah. Any
And
other thought?
I read that article of like, it's not over till it's over. It's really not over. Sellers keep showing if you're able to, and buyers, hey, hang on to that home because at 40% canceled in the month of December, like Nara's saying, that's a great opportunity for us to take market share and win.
There you go. Insurance rates increased by an average of 64% nationwide from 2015 to 2024. I don't think most lenders are doing a good job of consulting a buyer. So your lender partner is a big part of this conversation of getting your buyer consulted correctly early and getting insurance costs buttoned up, getting taxes buttoned up, so there's no shocks at the end of the transaction. Does that make sense?
Totally. By the way, Brett, before we close out, there's been really good chat going on, and I've noticed. So way to engage, guys. I think that's important, and the collective conversation matters. One of the questions from Jason was around, one of his contacts who's been doing real estate for 20 years, days on market, maybe going back to pre-COVID, where it was 60 to 90 days to sell. And so that's things like just realize 5 to 6 months is considered a balanced market between buyers and sellers. 60, 90, or 120 days is not a detrimental amount of time. That creates an opportunity that's a little more balanced for buyers and sellers. So the way I read the question was that that might be detrimental to real estate, and it's really not. It's just the nature of real estate counterbalancing itself over time and the ebbs and flows.
There you go. Happy Groundhog Day. I don't
Good to see
believe the
everybody.
tuck's in Phil, just for the record. Bye.
Good to see everybody.
Bye.